Good evening. Just like to welcome everybody tonight to our District 52 board meeting. Just going to call it to order, and we're going to begin with our invocation. Jason Johnson, 7th grader at Edgewood Middle School, will lead our invocation. If everyone please stand.
Lord, thank you for us being here all today, and may your wisdom and may you guide us through today. May our thoughts be great. May our words be responsible. May we know that we're all here for the kids and the future of these kids. And we all say in the Lord's name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Jason. Great job. And Jay Reynolds, if you'll lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance.
Here. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Everybody can have a seat. First thing on our I guess the fourth thing tonight would be our affirmation of our agenda.
Make a motion to approve as printed.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The next thing is approval of minutes from our September 9th meeting. Right, just take a peek at that, and if any edits, just let us know.
Make a motion we approve the minutes as printed.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any board comments tonight? Okay. Thank you. Looks like we don't have any public comments tonight, so we'll move on to our recognitions. National Beta Club Convention winner, Miss Corley's going to present that one.
Well, Miss Corley, you changed her a little bit.
Okay, I guess it's Mr. Shumpert.
Yeah, she changed her
And
mind.
then he'll also do Heart of the Wildcats.
Miss Corley's not much of a public speaker, so she's pretty quiet and performs. So she don't like to get up here much. If our students for the national honors, or excuse me, the national convention, if they are here, could please come forward. Gibson Bell. This one's good because I usually mispronounce her name, but Macy Krajewski. I think I got it right. Mackenzie Cook, Caroline Elrod, and Bailey Esco. So these students were in a technology competition at National Beta Club this summer. They finished first in the state convention this year, and they finished third in the national convention. They created a video that had, it was like a science experiment. It had like different little test tubes that had different things that go into what makes 96 and what makes Edgewood. So an extremely great presentation. It represented us extremely well. And I'm upset that these kids have gone on to the high school because they have really helped our test scores in the last couple of years at Edgewood. So I would like for them to come back for another year, but congratulations to them for finishing third in the nation. Before I do the Heart of the Wildcat, I got a couple things I wanted us to highlight that we've had going on good. Real briefly before I do the Heart of the Wildcat, and I know I'm going off script, Miss Anderson, so it won't take but just a second. But yesterday we did State Fair field trip, and we took about 90 kids to the State Fair who did exceeds on all state testing. So huge celebration to take a picture with that many kids at the State Fair. So great performances by those kids who did that. Also, in this first 9 weeks, we did something new this year called Edgewood's Finest, where students had to get community service hours. They had to have a certain GPA or certain grade average and no referrals. We took 57 students. We had more that qualified, but we had 57 students that we took to our first trip this first 9 weeks that had 85 or above, and also had 10 community service hours. So we hope that number is going to grow by the number of kids that got to go on that trip. So that is really good for those kids as well. Last thing, October the 25th, we were chosen by the high school league to host a middle school tournament they have like a state middle school volleyball tournament now. They have like little regions. And our school district was selected to host one of those. So on October the 25th, we'll have a Saturday tournament for like a mini state champion or a regional state champion for middle school volleyball. So we're excited to hopefully be playing in that and to host that as well. So if you're not doing nothing on the 25th, come out and see that. All right, jumping into my heart of my Wildcats. I have two that I'm going to recognize tonight. It's my pleasure to stand before you tonight to recognize everything that this young lady has done. Our Heart of the Wildcat for teachers, excuse me, for our teacher this month goes to Miss Gossett. Come on up. You got to come up. You got to stand here while I say good things about you. Teaching to her is just more than delivering lessons. She shapes lives. She nurtures minds. She inspires hearts. The kids love going to her class. She does all these things with grace, passion, and an unwavering dedication. Last year, she was a first-year teacher, and she went through all the struggles and trials and tribulations that all first-year teachers kind of go through, and she did it every day with a smile, and she kept showing back up. So that's an attribute to her. We celebrated her at the beginning of the year. She was a teacher that was kind of on an island last year because she didn't have a partner teacher to kind of bounce ideas off of, being a seventh grade teacher, the lone English teacher. She had to kind of do the workload by herself. She carried a lot of those kids. A lot of our seventh graders had her last year. At the end of the year, her passage rate was somewhere around 67.5%. So for a first-year teacher, that's an amazing accomplishment for the number of students that she taught and the number of students that she had in her class. Her hard work doesn't go unnoticed. Her commitment to excellence and patience and passion for education has made a difference in our school and our community. Her energy and enthusiasm of being a first and second year teacher she's bouncing off the wall, so that helps give all us older people at school a little more energy when we get there each day to try to keep up with her. So today we honor Miss Gossett. We want to celebrate you. Congratulations on being the Heart of the Wildcat. It's for people like you that make going to Edgewood a great day. Hold on. There you go. You got to turn to get the picture. My second one is not able to be here today, but this is somebody that I really think that you guys need to know about. This is a person that kind of goes behind the scenes and a lot of times doesn't get a whole lot of recognition. But it's not every day that we get to truly recognize somebody that has so much impact on our building. Today, I want to talk about somebody who leads with integrity, he serves with compassion, and he inspires excellence in everybody around him. He has a quiet strength. He has an unwavering commitment to create a sense of calm, order, and support, even on days that are extremely chaotic. Whether he's helping a student through a difficult moment, supporting a teacher with a challenge, or coordinating behind the scenes, he helps me keep everything running smoothly. He does it all with grace, professionalism, and heart. He's the bridge a lot of times between students who are having arguments with each other. He is the first go-to or point of contact for parents who are upset about something that happens at school, and he runs the day-to-day operations of the school. He has really helped me build a culture of respect, of learning positively and doing everything that we ask for him as a district. And so I wanted the board to be aware of how good of a job and how thankful we are to have Mr. Carwile as our assistant principal at Edgewood Middle School. He does a phenomenal job, and what he does doesn't need to go unrecognized. So I'd like to give him a round of applause. He's not here because he just had a new son, so he's the father of a new son, so he is currently at home taking care of that. But thank you for everybody that is here tonight that did good things for Edgewood.
Thank you, and thank you for recognizing everybody, and appreciate everything that all of y'all do. So now on to the superintendent's report. Dr. Taylor.
Thank you. We have a list of field trips, professional leave requests, and fundraisers in your packet. If you would review those, please. And we also have one overnight. And so that is something that we need to decide on. Thank you.
Guess we need a motion to approve that overnight trip.
I'll make a motion we approve the overnight field trip.
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.
Okay, thank you very much. We also have a parenting report. If you have any questions concerning the parenting report that was prepared.
No questions.
Okay. All right, and then we had, I sent a request to ask for a motion for approval for the naming of the carpet gym, and we would like to announce that at the Hall of Fame event on October 24th. So if we could have a motion of approval, if y'all are in agreement with that name.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Okay.
That's it for now.
Thank you very much. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Taylor. Now I'll have a brief report by Mr. Schofield.
This might be more brief than you imagine. Wow. There's not a whole lot I can say about the school report card. One, because it's still embargoed. So the state originally said that the school report cards would be released on October the 17th. So this was going to be a moot point to discuss it in this board meeting. Well, then the state was ahead of themselves, and they said, you know what, we're doing a fantastic job. We're going to release them on October the 13th, which was yesterday. Well, some of the metrics that they used for calculating the high school report card, one being the graduation rate, were wrong. And they were wrong statewide. It wasn't just something that they were calculating wrong for this district. We have had multiple meetings to try and correct the data that the state was pulling from. Because they had ours reported incorrectly. So we did that, we submitted it, we thought things were on track, and we realized that it was about 90, somewhere in the realm of 90 to 93% of the districts had all their information incorrect on the school report card. So the state has now pushed it back to November. I've heard November the 3rd, that they're gonna release this information. We just got an email literally a couple of hours ago about some more information that we need to correct on the school report cards. And this is all just for the high school report card. We think that the elementary and middle school report cards are correct. So all that to say, I don't have any information to share with you tonight, other than the fact that we are still trying to correct the state's information. The thing is that 2 years ago, they changed the way this information was pulled from the districts. It didn't get corrected. And so it's really, the state didn't think that they needed to correct anything until they realized that they were reporting a grad rate that was much lower statewide than was actually true, because they had everybody's grad rate lower than what it was supposed to be. So when it affects the state, they pushed it back. They realized they needed to change it. So we were going to work diligently to correct that. We have another week to make sure that the information is correct. And hopefully they were released November the 3rd, and we'll give you more information from then. But you may see it in the papers before we actually get to talk about it in a board meeting. So.
Cool. Well, thank you for that update. I know it's frustrating for everyone, especially all the other districts, but well, we look forward to hopefully hearing about it at our next meeting.
I'm sure there'll be a lot of good news to report. We just want to make sure that it is the correct good news to report.
Yes. Okay. So, Mr. Andrew, our monthly financial report and our capital projects update.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Our monthly financial report through the end of September, our revenue in your packet shows about $1.76 million. I did just this morning get the September tax information from the county, so that number is actually pushed up closer to about $1.9 million. And none of that includes, the state has not started allocating any of the Tier 3 reimbursement money yet, which replaces the tax on your primary residence. It's a sales tax. We get about $220,000 of that every month. So including what we just got from the county today, and then if you pick up the monthly amount we get from that Tier 3 reimbursement, our revenue is actually in pretty good shape if you compare that to your 5-year comparison. Last year at this time, we were right at $2 million. So revenue is actually, on a good trend right now from where we are historically. Our expenses to this point are just a touch over $3 million.
Last year, we were just under $3 million, which makes sense given that everyone got a step increase and a little more money in their pocket. So really, to this point through September, there's nothing unusual. As I mention every time at this time of year, our expenses are going to be more than our revenue until we get the taxes come January, come the new calendar year. I've got a list of some of our expense accounts in there just so you have a little more detail. I'll be happy to answer any questions you guys have on the monthly financials. And if there are none, I will move on to capital projects.
Good to go.
All right. So we had a busy fall break for some capital projects. Our primary school and elementary school got new classroom furniture. We're still waiting on chairs at the elementary school for our students, but the primary school did get everything else. As far as I know, the kids are happy. Rugs. Sorry, I knew there was something else. But as far as I've heard, the kids like the desks. I have two at home that said they were nice and big and bigger than the teacher desk, so they were happy about that. So yeah, that went relatively smoothly over those 2 weeks. And then our district office, we got new flooring in our district. We replaced the old carpet with some of the LVP that's similar to the hallways out here. So it's a lot brighter in there. Things look a little bigger. I think we're all happy with that. Some upcoming projects. We're still waiting to hear about the PA systems through the grant that Officer Boudreaux is trying to get for us. I've got in your report that I met with the digital marquee, the sign person, October 8th. We had to reschedule that to tomorrow. So I meet with those representatives tomorrow to try to get some exact specifications and an accurate budget number. And then we'll likely have to bid that out once we get that number in. But we don't know exactly what we need yet until we meet with somebody who knows what they're talking about. So that process is underway. We're getting quotes for the rest of the furniture at the primary school and elementary school. You know, we originally had gone in to replace all the furniture, and that was a little too much. So we just did the student desks and chairs and tables and those things first, and we'll look to do teacher desks and storage and everything else at a later date. So we're getting a quote on what that would look like now to see how we can build that in. And then another option or another potential project we wanted to mention tonight was the White House on our bus lot at the elementary school. It's pretty dilapidated. It's got a lot of asbestos in it. But the drivers and then the maintenance people who come work on the buses still need some storage space and a bathroom. So we're exploring our options on what to do there. First step would be doing something to the White House. We've got to abate all the asbestos out of it and then likely demolish it. And the quote on that, the abatement and the demolition, is about $27,550 to get rid of it. So we're curious your thoughts on that, to see if we could make some improvements on that bus lot, what your guys' thoughts were.
I've been inside of it. It's not the best of shape, so it would be my recommendation that we get rid of it and put something that's more safe.
Okay. Yeah, we can definitely include that on our list. Next month I'll bring, we'll have most likely a bond resolution where we've got some of these new projects in for our next round. We usually do that in November. So we'll try to fit as many things as possible on that bond resolution to where it makes sense after consulting with Theo, our bond attorney, and then our bond financial advisor also. So we'll have a more comprehensive list in November with some projects on there.
Yeah, so with that building over there, it's in pretty bad shape. I've been in it too. There seems to be some desks and some other things in there. What are those utilized for?
I think right now it's just sort of, so it used to be the bus lot or the bus office, and it was just sort of a hodgepodge of tables, desks for the drivers and for Alan, our director of transportation. But then whenever we got this building renovated and new furniture over here, that's just sort of surplus furniture at this point.
So there's no need to truly replace the building other than a possible restroom?
Yeah, I think that the main needs they have now are a restroom and a storage space for
Okay.
cleaning products and whatever other type of equipment they need for their buses
Okay.
are the main priorities.
Well, if you were to demolish that particular building, I've never really been up in there in that parking lot. Is that where we want the bus parking at, or does that open up that you could put it anywhere at that point if it made sense to be somewhere else?
Some of the holdups, and Kathy can speak to this too as the former director of transportation, some of the holdups with what we are able to do with the bus lot is we're grandfathered in right now with the way our bus lot is. If we were to do anything to move it somewhere else, we then have to meet a lot more requirements. Like we have to have a fence that it's a certain height with like barbed wire on top. I think it has to, your bus lot has to meet the same requirements that the state bus lot does. So it has to have like fencing, security, pavement. The amount of work to move it starts to get a little bit unfeasible. So that's why we've tried to maintain what we have for as long as we can.
Okay, and that answers my question. That's what I wondered.
Yeah. So it's a,
I mean, that building
it's a
seems to be
balancing act.
routinely kind of left open and kind of easily accessed, and it's in bad condition, and so it only makes sense to get rid of it and obviously replace it with some kind of storage and or restrooms and a possible common space.
Yeah. And so that's sort of the idea, is to get rid of it and then have some sort of, whether that be some sort of portable building or I don't know, small metal building, something.
Yeah.
We haven't figured that part out yet, but step one's definitely getting that building taken care of. But yeah, like I said, I'll have a resolution with some of these projects included for next meeting.
Okay.
We did talk about painting, and Andrew and I have
Yes.
talked about it. The principals, some of the principals have talked about it. I have no idea how extensive that would be or how much, but that is something,
Painting that building?
that building, but all the buildings.
Oh, really?
And the schools, so
Okay.
we don't know, we haven't even started scratching that surface yet, but yes, what can we do there? And maybe get some idea of what that's gonna cost.
Yeah, painting the schools has been on our lists for several years now, so
Okay.
we'll see what we can make work with that.
Hey, what's impressive is just driving by this multiplex and seeing how busy it is. It's almost like you kind of wonder, what did we do before? But it is well utilized, and it's amazing what all they use it for and how busy it stays. And obviously, it's going to be a lot to keep up and stuff, but it's impressive.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
I honestly, since I've been done with the project, I don't know that I've stepped foot over there, so I can't speak to it very much. But it does get a lot of use, which is good. So
Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you very much.
thank you.
So, Mr. McBoudreau, is he here tonight, or? are we gonna-
He called me a little while ago. He's working tonight. He's on the road and he's dealing with an issue, so he cannot be here. So
Okay.
if you had any question concerning his report, you could call him or email him, or you can let me know and I'll do that. So, yes. But he was planning on being here till just in the last couple hours.
Okay. I just want to look over the report right quick. If I have any questions, and we can send them on to Dr. Taylor.
Okay.
Any questions or concerns? On the safety report or the safety update? Okay. If not, we'll move forward to Miss Kathy Anderson with our policies. Looks like we're gonna be here for a little bit.
Okay, I'm back before you tonight with some second reading policies. If you refer to your agenda, they start with policy BE, and they go all the way through on the second page to JLCDB, use of life-saving medications with the accompanying administrative rule. Those are all second reading policies. So over the last month, I did not receive any questions or calls, but I want to give you one more opportunity to ask anything you might have over those policies. And if there are not any questions or concerns of the board, I'm seeking a motion to adopt those second reading policies. And if you would state them based on how they're stated in the agenda by the acronym, so the motion is clear in the minutes, we should be good. So I'll pause and see what the pleasure of the board is.
What about administrative rules?
Administrative rules do not need to be included in the motion. They follow the policy. Thank you, sir, for the question.
All right, I'll make a motion that we approve policies BE, BEA, GLCE, JICJ, GCQC, GCQCD, JH, JHE, and JLCDB.
Perfect.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, so now if you would turn in your board packets to page 91, that's where the first reading policies start. The first one is on staff compensation, and I will say that before we get started on this, the great majority of these policies that are being brought before you tonight, minus the evaluation policy, are an offshoot of the Educator Assistance Act and the change in law and the things that are now required through that big piece of law. So on page 91 and 92 is current policy GBC. On page 93 starts the revisions, and all of the different information is highlighted in yellow. The biggest thing to see there is that basically you have to have a projected salary schedule, either on your contracts when it's issued, a range, and then after the budget is approved, that salary scale has to be shared with all your certified folks as soon as possible. Also, the May the 11th date is the same as it always has been when teachers are required by state law to return those contracts. There's nothing that prevents them from returning them early, but May the 11th is the drop dead deadline. So all of that is pretty much the same except for those two little paragraphs there that are yellow and the little intro. Any questions about that before we move on? Okay. Next we have policies GCB, professional staff contracts and compensation. On page 95 is your current policy and continues on into 96. On page 97, you have just a few changes in that policy, and upon written request, now as the Educator Assistance Act has passed, a staff member that is certified may ask for factors that were used to determine their salary. And if they ask that, what those factors were they experience, were they different levels of certification, or what determined the salary that they have. So they may ask for that in writing, and then it also goes on to tell you again the same information that was in the previous policy, that as soon as that projected salary schedule becomes part of the regime for the district, then we have to provide them with that salary schedule. So that's the big changes there. Any questions on that policy? Okay, policy GCK is professional staff assignments and transfers. On page 99 is the current policy. On page 100 is the new policy. This policy talks about the notification of staff of their positions, certified staff, 14 school days before the students arrive. We went ahead this year, since we didn't have a policy on this and the law was passed July 1, we notified all of our certified staff members through letter in accordance to this policy at all 4 schools. We did get some feedback, why are you doing this? We've never had to do this before, but it's now required by law that we notify them by that date. It also states that if you plan to reassign a staff member, that they have to be notified within 5 school days of the reassignment. And you have to kind of provide them with a reason why this is necessary. This part of the policy, is kind of an offshoot from something that happened in Lexington. We had a group of teachers in Lexington about a year or two ago that were reassigned over Christmas break, and there was a lot of, we don't like that, coming back in. And so, they voiced that to the legislature, and guess what? There's the change. So that applies to everyone. And the last piece of, page 100 is within an individual school. The principal/director has the authority to assign classes and courses according to the needs of the school, and that those people in that principalship make those decisions. So the district assigns the positions, makes sure the certification is right. Principal has the authority to change that by grade level, move somebody from one grade to the next, as long as the certification is correct. But there's a certain amount of time those people have to be notified now. Any questions about that one? Okay, policy GCOA deals with teacher evaluations. Teachers in South Carolina are evaluated by the ADEPT evaluation system. And in this policy, it goes through all the different types of certificates that teachers have and the types of evaluation that follow that. For example, when a teacher is first hired, they are an induction teacher, and there's certain rules and guidelines that you go through with induction and certain amounts of observations. If they successfully complete their induction year, they move on to annual summative. And if they successfully complete that, then they're issued a professional certificate from the state of South Carolina, and at that point, they become a continuing teacher. When you become a continuing teacher, you are evaluated yearly under a goals-based evaluation. And they set goals for their classrooms. They're called SLOs, and principals meet with them to determine the progress of that. But on their 5th year, every year after they become a continuing teacher, they have to go through a formative evaluation process. That consists of 2 unannounced observations in the fall and 2 in the spring, unless you can waive the ones in the spring if you have all scores of 3 and 4. And those are per state guidelines on ADEPT. So we already use the ADEPT system. We've been using it for almost 10 years in education. And our State Department actually drives the system that we use. These results of these evaluations are used to inform employment decisions based on teachers. If you have someone who fails their ADEPT evaluation, then you have to add a 3rd person on the evaluation team, and they become they have to do a highly consequential evaluation at that point. And they also are subject to professional growth plans by not being able to pass their evaluations. So any questions about GCOA evaluation of instructional staff? Okay. There is one thing that I forgot to mention about GCOA. On page 110, that last paragraph is a district mandate that we've had, that every teacher in our district that's a continuing teacher, even though they don't have to do a formal evaluation but once every 5 years, has to undergo 1 ADEPT observation each year. And the purpose of that is if you don't practice these best practices, and then all of a sudden you hadn't done this in 4 years, and you've not had anybody coach you on how to do them, to provide you feedback, you get in there in that 5th year, and sometimes you don't do so well, because you should be implementing the practices that are on this evaluation daily in your classroom. They're proven research practices to increase student achievement. So when I bring that back before you, I plan to add that bottom paragraph at 110. I apologize for leaving it off tonight. All right, if there are no questions on that, we will move on to the administrative rule that accompanies that policy. That goes into each contract level and what is involved with each contract level. In terms of evaluation, it goes on into the makeup of the teams that are there, Evaluation is kind of a complex thing in South Carolina, and there are no new twist on that. It is a new rule, but it's basically, it mimics the same that we've already had in place. Okay, questions about 111? Okay, 116 starts GCQF, discipline and suspension and dismissal of professional staff. Professional staff are considered to be certified staff. Not all staff hold South Carolina teaching certificates. This deals with people that have teaching certificates. So 116 is the current policy. And my page is stuck together. 117 is the update. You'll see the paragraph there talks about that you can remove a professional staff member who is incompetent to directives of the superintendent or to work in the district. For example, you have somebody who's insubordinate. You ask them to do something, it's not immoral or illegal what you ask them to do, and they refuse to do it. That is one of those categories. It's also the policy of the board to remove from employment professional staff members who fail or who may be incompetent to give instruction in accordance with the directions of the principal or otherwise manifest an evident unfitness for teaching. So let's say you have someone who just mentally cannot teach. Usually you catch those in the induction year when there's not a lot of problem with letting them go. It would be a real travesty to get somebody to a continuing level and have to deal with that, because then you got Teacher Employment Dismissal Act rights. So you like to weed out those people. That's another reason why we have those strong programs that we have with Lander that bring us clinicals and student teachers, so we get an eye on somebody and what they can and can't do before we offer them a contract or a job to start with. All right, so that's 117. Questions on that? Okay, 118 is the accompanying administrative rule. It gets into the nuts and bolts of what you can actually dismiss someone for that has a professional contract. 118 is the current administrative rule, and if you place it side by side the new administrative rule, you will see that those categories of dismissal and misconduct are totally different from the other categories. So I ask you to spend some time looking at the categories on 118 and then studying over the categories on 121. Incompetence, willful neglect of duty, willful violations of rules and regulations of state board, unprofessional conduct, drunkenness, cruelty, crimes against the laws of the United States or the state, immorality, any conduct involving moral turpitude, dishonesty, illegal use, sale, possession of drugs or narcotics, evident unfitness for position for which was employed, and breach of contract. So those are the things that do not lead to a professional growth and development plan. If you have issues with those people, then you show them the door. That's the way that works. Okay, questions about, that's really the only change till you get to 123. And 123 that's the hearing rights. When you dismiss someone, they have a certain number of days that they can ask for an appeal. That appeal of a continuing teacher can be either done publicly, if they so wish for it to be done publicly, or it can be done privately. So if you have somebody in that category and they appeal, they can come before the board and, like I said, speak publicly and have witnesses and all that kind of thing, or speak privately. And that's kind of their rights that they have to present counsel and witnesses, and you actually have to have a court stenographer for those types of procedures, because you're taking away a property right of theirs when you're trying to dismiss them, if they're a continuing teacher. And so I encourage you to study over page 123, so you kind of know how that goes if we ever get into that situation. Okay, page 125, GBAA, sexual discrimination, harassment, retaliation. That's the current policy. And then you get into 127, those are the changes. basically, these changes to these policies are very minor. They just talk about the confidentiality in these next two policies about, sexual harassment cases. You know, FERPA is where you identify students, you call them by name and things. You cannot do that when it's confidential, you can't share that. Those educational rights are private. And then it ties it back into discipline. You know, what are you gonna do with these people when this happens? So at the bottom of 127, it basically refers you back to the student code of conduct and to the GBEB staff conduct policy if you've got somebody who's engaging in these kinds of behaviors. Page 128 at the top talks about visitors and volunteers. You know, these sexual harassment can happen basically by anybody in your building that's a human. And so these policies here actually cover your visitors and volunteers as well. And it talks about the notice of this policy and how it would be circulated, and they receive copies, staff receives copies of it in their staff handbooks, etc., and in our volunteer handbooks. And they have training on what sexual harassment is. Then you've got an accompanying administrative rule to that policy that begins on page 129. And your new administrative rule begins on page 135. And the only big change there is that it talks about that harassment does not have to be of a sexual nature, that it can include offensive remarks about a person's sex. The sexual orientation that they choose is what that's aimed at. Then on page 137, it goes through the fact that when you have these types of cases, you have district investigations, and you also frequently have Title VII or equal employment opportunity complaints that go with this. And those are investigations based on, you do your investigation on your personnel side, you submit that to those organizations, they look over your documentation, and then they decide, they mitigate with people who don't agree with your decision on a case. So Title VII is age discrimination, and that's something you really have to watch for when you're trying to dismiss people that they're in protected ages and classes. It talks about the investigator's role on 137 and the type of credibility that you have to have and the evidence that you need to do these kinds of, make these kinds of decisions. Page 139, if you get a complaint on one of these, it's in this administrative rule that we would hire a mediator, which would try to mitigate what was going on before it got to the court system to settle and do litigation. So it's always good to have that mediator in there if you've gotten in a situation that you need that type of assistance. That's on 139. 140, the bottom two statements, it just defines the training that you have to have and how that links back into policy GBEB, which is discipline for these items. I like 141, that's a new exhibit. That's if you have a complaint of that nature, how that works is that form has to be filled out. And I like Exhibit 2, which is GBAA 1 and 2. Those are the procedures kind of that you use when you start one of these cases. At the last piece of this, it talks about the complaint process, which is on page 145. That walks you through the entire process of what happens from start to finish when somebody has an issue that they think they've been sexually harassed. And it continues on to page 146. So that's not great reading, but it is also probably very important reading, you know, in case you ever get in a situation where you have to deal with something like that. JIAA is sexual harassment and retaliation, and this is the student side of this. J policies deal with students, so that kind of gives it away as to what it is. The same confidentiality applies. You've got the old policy and you got the new policy. And again, it links back into the discipline of the code of conduct and it applies to visitors and volunteers that can be subject to sanctions and different things as well if this goes down in your building. Administrative rule starts on page 151. And I'm going fast, so stop me if you need to. That's the old one. And it's kind of lengthy. It stops on 157. And then you have the new one on 158. There are not a lot of changes to that other than 159, linking it back into the different policies and procedures that we have. You'll notice that I am the contact on these cases for investigation and for decision-making that has to go with that. On page 160, it does talk a little bit about the investigation. And 162, we have to give a written decision to the person, you know, as to what our decision is after we investigate this matter. And I think that's about it, except for the nice 2 new little exhibits that go with that. You got a form, new form for kids, students to use. And you have a new exhibit on page 167, and then a new process at the end, just like you did with the staff. So, fortunately, we don't have too many of these to deal with, but that's the beauty of being a Title IX officer, is that you have to deal with what's before you. And so that's the guidance and the way that we work on those complaints when we have them. I'll pause and see if you have any questions.
Do you have a question? So, assuming student-to-student sexual harassment, are there ages on these as far as how a middle schooler or a primary schooler or so?
No ages.
Yeah. And where are the consequences for?
JICDA, which
Okay.
is the code of conduct, the student code of conduct. And help me fix, the JICDA administrative rule is the actual code of conduct.
Yes.
So if you go to your board manual, you click
Yeah.
on the J, then you can read the consequences of what
Right.
happens at each level for these types of violations.
That includes disciplinary action for everything, as far as fighting, as far as everything.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah,
But,
it does.
okay.
Okay? All right, you ready for personnel?
Yes,
Very
ma'am.
It's very complicated, isn't
Yeah,
it?
no, it is. I mean, I just.
It is, but I'm thankful that we have great policies to govern that, because taking care of those kinds of issues without policies would be a nightmare.
And so there are consequences for the original, per se, incident, and there's obviously consequences for retaliation.
That's correct. That's why the confidentiality piece exists.
Yeah.
You know, that word gets out, a lot of people start repeating that becomes retaliatory sometimes, and gets a spin on it. So it's very important that these situations be held very close to the vest when you're dealing with them. Okay? All right, anybody else?
Thank you.
All right, you're welcome. As always, you have between now and next month to call me, come sit down in my office. I can remember a couple of years ago, we had a new board member who did not understand the evaluation process, and I spent a whole, probably 3 hours with that person talking about a debt. And that was fine, because that taught that person what that all was. So I'm open to, if you wanna go deeper in what you just been, give me a call or send me an email. We can set up a time where we can do that. I want you to understand things as much as you can, okay? All right, on the personnel side, just have a couple things we need to go through. We've had some resignations since we last met. Brian Rhodes, who is the cafeteria manager between 96 Elementary and 96 High School, has resigned. So excuse me?
Middle school.
Middle and high.
Middle and
He's
high.
shared between the middle and high. He is the manager for both of those areas. He has resigned, and his job has been posted. We have Miss Tracy Gotts, who is a school nurse at the elementary school. She has resigned, and her job is posted. We have Alicia Pardue at the primary school. She is a teaching assistant. She has resigned. We call her Doobie Terry, but her given name is Arsula. Arsula Terry. She's a teaching assistant at the primary school. She resigned. We still have posted the middle school language arts sped ed position. It's still been open. And we also have posted still the high school science position. So as we start recruiting, which we have done, Lander, or I have done, Lander in different places, go to Erskine next couple weeks, go back to Lander in the classrooms, anywhere and everywhere we can go to try to find these people to fill these positions. So we're recruiting already for the open positions that we have, not the classified positions, but the certified positions. And we're waiting on applicants for the certified positions. So we'll be beginning some interviews this week, principals will, to look at some of these jobs. As of today, there have been no applicants for the school nurse position and no applicants for the cafeteria manager position. So if you know anybody, please have them apply.
So with those two positions, are they immediately open? Or are they giving us some grace period? Or-
All right, with the nurse, hers is some grace period. It's till the 1st of November. With Mr. Rhodes, it's effective at the end of this week.
And how long have those jobs been posted?
I posted them as soon as I received the resignations. I came back to work last night. I
Okay.
got them yesterday while I was at the conference.
Okay.
So I posted last night. And then Jonathan, I think, put them on Facebook last night or this morning.
Last night.
Okay.
Thank you.
As quick as we can to get them out, to try to keep them filled is the best thing.
So we'll have, the nurses will be filling in while the replacement's filling in, so you'll have somebody be bouncing back and forth.
She's gonna be with us until I think November the 3rd. Don't quote me on the actual date, but I think it's November, it's the first week, first little bit of November. So that should give us some time to hopefully find someone that we can snag, do some interviews, and get some things ready. But yes, same thing happens when, the food service manager's gone, Miss Stabler, and Andrew, her assistant, is Amy, and I don't know her last name. They're both Amy's, Amy and Amy. They go and fill in that spot until we hire the replacement. So she's been made aware of that as well yesterday. So, any questions about personnel, policies?
Well, thank you.
You're welcome, thank you. That's all I have.
Okay. Any other comments or anything? Motion?
Motion to adjourn. Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob.
Quick and on the phone with your buddy.
Just that.
Man, thanks.
That is